everyone, and welcome to my 23 and 23 challenge recommendations video. If you don't know what the 23 and 23 challenge is, I'll leave a link down below to the Instagram post which explains everything, but it's essentially a challenge to read 23 BIPOC authors by the end of the year. So what I thought I'd do today is give a few recommendations, because I would be posting my own TBR video for this, but I have a very busy last couple of months of the year because this year has apparently been ridiculously busy. So I'm instead going to be like mood reading my way through and squeezing books in wherever possible, but I thought I'd join in anyway and advertise it and sort of like spread the word a little bit further by doing a recommendations video. So let's get going. First thing I'm mentioning is Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi, and this one is all about Bitter, who has spent her life in foster care, but she's now found a place in a school called Eucalyptus where she can focus on her painting, this kind of thing. But at the same time, the streets are filled with protests against deep injustices that are gripping the city that she lives in, and she's kind of like having to deal with whether or not she joins the protests, how she can join the protests if she agrees with them, discussions about violent versus non-violent protests, all of this kind of thing, deep discussions about like injustice and all of these kind of things, which I really enjoyed. So if you're looking for a kind of read like that, that is also quite short and very easy to read, definitely give Bitter and Akwaeke Emezi a go. I also have N.K. Jemisin, but specifically the 5th season and the entire Broken Earth trilogy. I flew through this one. This is all about people who can control the earth, and the fact that they live in a world where there is a 5th season that is very devastating. It causes a lot of like famine and things like this, and trying to deal with what's happening in these worlds, and then also like the prejudice that these people who can control the earth face, all of this kind of thing. I will say that the science went a little bit over my head at points in this, because it is very sort of science based, but it's still absolutely amazing. The plot twists and everything absolutely gave me whiplash at points. I love the world building of this, I love the writing of this, I love how queerness is just added throughout here, and it's weaved in so perfectly because you have a bisexual main character, there is also a polyamorous relationship, there is also a trans main character, and a whole load of things like this. There's also disability rep, if I remember rightly, and it's just generally really good. I will say that you need to look up the trigger warnings for this because there is a lot of them, but it is very well worth reading because I love this. And also just reading N.K. Jemisin in general, I also really enjoyed her City We Became book, but that's a bit more multiversal, and I wanted to focus on something that's more like high fantasy for now, because I know multiversal stuff isn't for everyone, but I would recommend that anyway if you're into multiverse. But this was really good. I love the Broken Earth trilogy. This is definitely one of my favourite trilogies. It is amazing. Then if you are looking for a Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibe type story but with black bisexual nerdy girls, check out L.L. McKinney's Nightmareverse, starting with A Blade So Black, because that is exactly what this series is. This is following Alice, who is a very nerdy girl who gets dragged into this sort of war with Wonderland, I guess you could say, where nightmares that humans create who originate in Wonderland slip through into our world, and she has to try and kill them, and it is so good. When I say that I am not an Alice in Wonderland fan, I am not kidding. I hate Alice in Wonderland, the original story. I had to read it for my GCSEs or my A-levels. One of my examination bits anyway at school, and I hated every single minute of it. I hated how illogical it was and all of the rest of it, but this really won me over. I was not sure whatsoever going into it because I was like, oh, it's Alice in Wonderland, I don't know, but the sheer badassery of it, the absolute brilliance of it, the fact that it's still logical while being about Alice in Wonderland is absolutely brilliant. I love this badass take on it. I love the fact that our main character is also really nerdy. There's bisexual rep as well, and Hatter is a book boyfriend because he's a little bit emo, and I'm always here for characters who are a little bit emo. I'm not gonna lie, if you didn't know that about me already. I mean, I'm always here for an emo character, and Hatter is definitely a bit emo. And also, there's no better time to read this because the final book is coming out this year, which is so exciting. It's been on like hiatus for like 2 years now or something, and unfortunately I can't read the final one yet because it's only coming out in hardback and I've got the paperbacks, which sucks, but I am so excited for that paperback to come out eventually so I can just reread the entire series in one great big go and just fall back in love with this world again. It is so good. It is one of my favourite retellings I've ever read. It is brilliant. You should all go read this. Even if you're not a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer or anything else like that, if you like your characters badass, definitely read this because it's definitely filled with badasses. It is so good. And if you're an Alice in Wonderland fan, there's a lot in here to like as well because there is a lot of Easter eggs in here, some of which I'm pretty sure I missed, but there was a lot that I did clock as well, and it's just brilliantly done. It's brilliantly done. You should all go read this. Then on another badass nerdy note, there is also the Aru Shah series by Roshani Chokshi. This is a middle grade, very much in the vein of Percy Jackson, in the sense that we are dealing with a bunch of kids who are the reincarnations or the offspring of various gods, but only it's the 5 Pandava brothers from the Mahabharata instead of like the Greek gods and all the rest of it, and they all have to come together to try and save the world across the series in various different ways, and this is so much fun. Aru is brilliant. She is really nerdy. There's a whole load of like different references throughout here, though she does make me feel old at one point. In like the first or second book I think it is, because she says that The Matrix is an old movie, and I'm like, excuse you, I was your age when I first read, when I first watched that movie, and then I suddenly felt old because I was like, oh god, that was years ago, which wasn't fun, I won't lie, but I still loved all the references in here. Aru spends the entirety of this first book in like a Spider-Man pajama set, which I'm kind of jealous of, but I also love like the family dynamics in here and how everybody all came together in the end and how like they all related to each other. I loved all of that. I loved like the world of this and the humour of it, everything else. It was absolutely brilliant and I loved every single minute of it. And also, if you like this, also check out Roshani Chokchi's other work, specifically the Gilded Wolf series, which is set in like 1800s France, and there's a whole load of like fantasy heists and all of that kind of stuff as well if you're interested in that. And it's also got bisexual and autism rep in there as well, which is awesome, so go check out that series as well. I'm just specifically mentioning Aru Shah because it's my personal favourite of Roshani Chokchi's work that I've read so far, but I cannot recommend it enough. It is 5 books long, they're all really quick reads and they're just so much fun. I definitely highly recommend them. Also on the middle grade front, I've got to mention Amari and the Night Brothers. This series is so good. If you loved Men in Black as a kid, definitely read this because this is kind of like a fantasy Men in Black, in the sense that you've got Amari, who is a normal girl, and then she gets dragged into this world where there is a secret like government, if I remember right, is it government like bureau? It's something like that, a secret bureau essentially, who deal with the supernatural creatures and all of this kind of thing, and she's also dealing with like a lot of prejudice because of her type of magic, all of this kind of thing, and it is so much fun. I loved like the Men in Black vibes in here. I loved like Amari's relationships with everybody. I loved unraveling all of the, like the mystery of this world, all of this kind of thing. It is so much fun. It's such a quick read as well. There are 2 books in this series so far and I've enjoyed both of them. If you are a fan of like Men in Black or middle grades in general, definitely check this out. It is so good. I also have to mention Babel by R.F. Kuang here. This was my first R.F. Kuang book and it will not be my last. This one was so good. I wasn't expecting to love this as much as I did in the end, because this is very like literary. There is a lot of talk in here about like technical stuff to do with like language, translation, all of this kind of thing, which is something that usually goes completely and utterly over my head. There was a lot of like technical language and stuff like this. There was very minimal fantasy as well, which is not usually my thing, but I ended up flying through this book despite how big it is and how technical it is. I loved every single minute of reading this. I loved all of like the conversations it had about like translation, all the rest of it. I loved the conversations it also had about like racism, and then also like how white people react to finding out about racism, all of this kind of thing. I loved all of those elements of it. I loved reading just everything about this, it was so good. If you want to read a historically set book with a lot of like technical aspects to it and just minor fantasy elements while also discussing things like racism and everything else I've just mentioned, definitely give this a go. The hype was definitely real. I loved reading this. But now after this, I now just really want to read all of R.F. Kuang's other work. I haven't admittedly started yet, but I definitely want to because this was so good. I absolutely loved it. I cannot recommend this enough. It was amazing. I then also have to mention the Mirror series, and each one of these books is written by a different author. So the first one, which is I've forgotten the name of it, but it's done by Julie C. Dow. The sequel, Shattered Midnight, is by Donnie L. Clayton. The third one is J.C. Cervantes, which I think is coming out this year. If I remember rightly, I'm pretty sure it's coming out this year. And then the final one is L.L. McKinney. And I really have enjoyed what I've read of this series so far. Admittedly, I've only read the first one, but I'm really excited to continue on with this series. If you do not know what this is about, it's following a family, and the first one is all about how the family got cursed, and then we're going down their generations as it follows them as they've been cursed, how it affects them, this kind of thing. And it's kind of fairy tale-esque, which I really enjoy, this kind of thing, and I'm really excited to continue on with this series. I'm just really excited as well to read more Donnie L. Clayton because I recently read The Marvellous, which I also highly recommend as well, because if you want magical school stories, you cannot go wrong with The Marvellous. It's very whimsical. I will say it was on the cusp of being too whimsical for me personally, but I still really enjoyed it. And if you want a more diverse, more inclusive magical school story, which is done far better than the other one we will not name, definitely check out The Marvellous. But anyway, I also am just really excited to see what Donnie L. Clayton does with YA, because I haven't read any of her YA work before, and also the series is quite short and still ongoing, so you can support an ongoing series and also read some quick short books as well, which is always useful towards the end of the year when everything gets a bit busy. I've then also really got to mention Raybearer by Jordan Ifreiko. This is just a duology, so it's very quick to read in that sense. You're not going to get bogged down in a huge series if you do not want that towards the end of the year. It's a very short duology, but I really enjoyed this. I love the world of this one. Again, the character dynamics and how they all related to each other was absolutely fascinating. I loved that part of it as well. It was so well written, and there's also an asexual main character, and you cannot go wrong when you have a well written asexual main character in here as well, which I absolutely loved. It is a brilliant series. Definitely go check it out. There's also A Phoenix First Must Burn if you want to read a bunch of short stories by black authors. There's a lot in here. I really enjoyed this short story collection as well. It's all about black girl magic and things, so if you want to like discover a whole load of black authors in one go, I definitely recommend A Phoenix First Must Burn. If you're looking for comics as well, I have to mention The Banks by Roxane Gay. This is all about a family who do a bunch of heists, and it is brilliant. I love this so much. I love the conversations that it brought up. I love the message of it. I love just generally this entire like comic book. I need it to be a series so desperately. I don't think it's going to be, but I really want it to be, because the first one, or like this entire like comic itself, was just so good. Highly recommend it. Then also there is Peach Momoko. Specifically, she's done the Demon Days series. She's mostly an artist, but she's done Demon Days, which combines the Marvel Universe with Japanese folklore. But if you're not a fan of the Marvel Universe, or you don't really know that much about it, you can still just dive right into it, because all you'll really be missing is a couple of Easter eggs, and that's about it. But you will learn a lot about like Japanese mythology in here, and also the artwork is just stunning. So if you want to read a book about like Japanese folklore and then also have a ton of gorgeous artwork, you cannot go wrong with Peach Momoko's Demon Days. And that is the end of this recommendations video. So I hope this helped if you are taking part in the 23 and 23 challenge, which I highly recommend you all do anyway, or you've just discovered some more authors to check out and some more books to check out. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me a book you really want to read before the end of the year by a BIPOC author. I'd love to know. Let's carry on giving recommendations in the comments. I would love to have some more of those. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a magical related emoji down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which is filled with a whole load of recommendations of BIPOC and other diverse authors if you want to check that out, as well as a link as well down below to my Etsy store that sells bookish merch if you're interested in that. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!